Hello everyone, my name is Alex and I'm a lane splitter.
Hi, Alex.
I want you to know though, I wasn't always like this. It started when I was young. At first I just did it occasionally, on weekend rides to look cool for my buddies. But now I can't stop. I see how easy it is to just slowly crawl through traffic at 10 miles per hour where all the cagers are stuck and I can't get enough. And I just want other riders to follow a few simple rules to make lane splitting safe and easy. Fuck it. One of those two will work. Welcome to Celebrity Fear Factor. I'm Alex. What'd you think of the cold open? Yay? Nay? 6 out of 10? Could use work? I was looking through videos of motorcycle crashes the other night on my favorite subreddit, trying to find something to do another accident analysis on. Well, I went down the rabbit hole of people getting into really brutal crashes while lane splitting.
Ooh, shit! Oh my! Whoa!
Seeing so many similar wrecks made me think that maybe we have a bit of the problem in the US with knowing how to safely execute lane splitting, unlike our homies across the pond who seem to have it figured out. Here's the thing though, I don't think you can really blame these riders for having bad lane splitting habits. The only state you're supposed to lane split in is California. And even so, the California state troopers are so scared of public backlash that they pulled down their own guidelines about how to execute safe lane splitting. No, that's not an exaggeration. They cite one person complaining as to why they removed their 3-page safety guidelines. If you hate the idea of lane splitting, let's just put that aside for a moment and realize that there are a lot of riders out there who are gonna do it anyway. Not having lane splitting safety guidelines out there is like teaching absence-only sex education. It really just leads to more underage pregnancies, abortions, and STDs. That's from a Twitter account called Darkstock Photos. Highly recommended follow. As usual, I don't encourage anyone to break the law. But if you aren't going to heed that advice, here's some guidelines to prevent you from starring in the next video of a motorcycle smashing into the back of a car on Live Leak.
Lane splitting, lane sharing, or filtering are all motorcycle techniques that require a solid grasp of riding your bike, as well as a strong familiarity of traffic flow and patterns. Like most advanced motorcycle maneuvers, lane splitting can be boiled down to estimating risk versus reward. Some of the risks from lane splitting are hitting the back of vehicles making sudden lane changes, getting squeezed between vehicles by another driver's lateral movement, or if you incorrectly estimate a gap, striking an open door, mirror, or other protruding section of a vehicle. Some places, you might be sharing the filter lanes with bicyclists or other riders who may enter the filter lane abruptly. And let's be real, malicious attempts by other drivers using their vehicles purposely trying to impede your forward progress. The rewards for successful lane splitting are, you use less gas idling. In some situations, you avoid that uncomfortable feeling of a motorcycle engine idling between your legs at 200+ degrees. Reduced accident probability simply by being on the road for less time, as well as making collisions from the rear nearly impossible. And of course, you get to your destination faster. Let's go back to our accidents and discuss some of the high-risk plays that get you into trouble while lane splitting. Major Guideline 1, the Battle of Yavin. If you've seen any of my accident analysis videos, you know I'm not one to simplify a motorcycle crash down to driving too fast. But the number one with a bullet factor in lane splitting accidents is speed. Lane splitting is like doing the Death Star run during the Battle of Yavin in Star Wars A New Hope. You jam yourself into a narrow trench, and you can't use the same maneuverability you normally have in an open space to avoid other vehicles and hazards. The greater the difference in speed between you and the vehicles you're moving between, the less time you'll have to react to a vehicle changing lanes. And since almost the only tool you'll have for preventing an accident while lane splitting is emergency braking, you have to drive at speeds that are within your ability to react to sudden movements of the vehicles around you. So, how fast should you go while lane splitting? To assist us with that question, we're going to whip out a heuristic called the Solomon Curve. The Solomon Curve is simply a visualization of research data conducted by David Solomon in the 1950s and 1960s. His data found a large correlation between speed differentials in vehicles traveling in the same direction and accidents. This data was recently reinforced from a large study conducted by UC Berkeley in 2015. Using the Solomon curve as a baseline, a reasonable speed to lane split is within 15 miles per hour of the speed of surrounding traffic. A similar rule was provided by the California Highway Patrol Guidelines, with a slightly more conservative estimate of 10 miles per hour of the speed of surrounding traffic. Unless you have the reaction time of Spider-Man, or telepathic ability of Professor X, riding at speeds higher than this while splitting starts you down the slippery slope of taking your safety from your hands and putting it in the hands of drivers around you. Major Guideline 2. Location, location, location. Highways are a great place to lane split, as cars are less likely to be rapidly darting between lanes, and bumper-to-bumper slow-moving traffic is common. Downtown areas are often riddled with inefficient traffic operations, while simultaneously being relatively slow-moving traffic. Examples of this are lanes getting backed up for turns while waiting for pedestrians, light patterns that cause backups in intersections, and double turn lanes that prevent access to additional lanes. You should use significant care anytime you travel through an intersection though, especially uncontrolled intersections with no spotlight or traffic signals. You shouldn't expect anyone driving the same direction around you to know that you exist, and that goes double true for vehicles driving in the opposite or a perpendicular direction looking to turn onto a different street. Major Guideline 3. Leave douches in the dust. A fact of life is that even in places where lane splitting is completely legal, there are people who believe they're justified in taking aggressive and potentially violent action to prevent your ability to lane split. You can find a variety of videos where people confront these vigilantes and give them a good verbal thrashing. This is a really dumb idea. Most of you watching this video are in the United States, where there are almost as many guns as people. If just the sight of you driving past people in traffic is enough to spark someone to use their vehicle to aggressively attempt to impede your progress, that is a massive red flag that should indicate that you need to get as far away from this person as quickly as possible. If someone attempts to impede your progress, simply switch lane position to either go use a different lane or take the side they're not impeding and ensure you get as much distance from them as possible. If you're riding a motorcycle, then you're already at a massive disadvantage when going up against somebody in a 2-ton vehicle. Use your agility and GTFO. I don't need any George Zimmermans citing my videos as motivation for why they stood their ground against some cager with road rage. Some final quick hit guidelines. The faster traffic is going, the less safe lane splitting is. The UC Berkeley study found that lane splitting was very safe and effective, sub 50 miles per hour. You should probably avoid lane splitting in turns or around corners due to the increased size of your bike while leaning, tendency for you and other drivers to drift a bit while turning, and to avoid pulling a yammy noob and slamming into opposite direction traffic. Focus on splitting in the leftmost lanes, as cars tend to change lanes more often in the right-hand lanes due to on and off ramps. I talk more about this in my video, Accident Analysis 3. Take extra precautionary steps to accommodate for traffic conditions and weather. The area in between lanes can be extra hazardous in wet conditions as paint and those little marker nubs get super slick.
My lawyer advised me to remind you that none of this footage was mine. It's most definitely someone else's random footage that I found on the internet with very similar taste in motorcycles. If you watch this video and are still of the opinion that lane splitting is totally unsafe, regardless of the circumstances and these guidelines, go ahead and leave me a comment explaining why, so we can respond to it in a later video I have planned about lane splitting. Now, I'm very aware of common arguments against lane splitting, so make sure you've thought through your opposition, otherwise I'm going to give you the verbal equivalent of a stone cold stunner. If you just can't get enough of this sweet beard that took me like 6 months to grow, you should probably subscribe and come check me out on Twitch or Twitter. Until next time, ride fast and take chances. Fucking cat.
Alright, time to do some research.